who am I? Like, who am I really? And what matters to me? And what feels true for me? And how do I want to show up in my life? How do I want to think? How do I want to feel? How do I want to connect? What do I want to create? And what is meaningful to me? And that is where the gold is.
Some time now, I have been fascinated by the idea of complete and total health optimization. So this means not only optimizing my fitness, my nutrition, my sleep, but also the subsections of those aspects of health optimization. So optimal thoughts, optimal cellular function, optimal brain function, optimal gut health. So every week, I invite guests on to the podcast who hold a particular expertise in one or more of these areas. I get them to provide us with insight, ideas, solutions, and the latest information in their particular area of expertise. Today's podcast will focus on optimizing thoughts and consciousness, which was just an extraordinary conversation with our special guest, Samantha Lotus. And it begins in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Are you saying a little prayer before you start? Do you have some kind of like grounding technique before you start things?
Yeah, I do. I get my feet grounded on the floor. I connect to my body. I recognize that a lot of time the energy is up in the head, and I just take a deep breath and I bring the energy down through my core, right into my sacral, my solar plexus, get anchored. I'm like, okay. And I reconnect to truth. Wow. Whatever this is, let it be true. Let it be real.
Wow, that's amazing. What a great way to start too. You know, it's funny. The very first podcast I ever did, I had like a grounding technique, but it was more like a motivation, like saying, let's go, let's kill this. But I put headphones on for like the very first time ever when I did this. And I actually went to a podcast studio, and this is going back a couple of years. It was called In Your Biz. I put the headphones on, I had the microphone. And then when we were done the podcast, it was like I was waking up out of a dream. You know, you're like in a different environment with these, and it's like it's really cool. So I try to do that to ground myself and get into a whole different world. But again, thanks for doing this. I'm sure the listeners, whether they're watching this or listening, are really excited for what you have to share. I'm going to try to dig deep and see what we can get out of Samantha Lotus. So, the first thing I really wanted to touch on is that you're a human optimization expert. This is amazing. This is what we're going for. But with so many different aspects to optimization, I can optimize my fitness. I can optimize my diet, my supplements, my cognitive function, my sleep, my hormones. Where do we start?
Yeah, well, first I want to say thank you so much for having me on. I'm super excited. There's already a good energy, good flow going here. We can go into so many things, so I'm excited for it. And yeah, the question of where do we start? And that is, I wish there was just a simple answer to that, but really where we talk about human optimization, all of those things are important about sleep, relationships, purpose, supplementation, exercise, all of it's important. And in my practice, in my belief system is that if you are to only look at one aspect, it would be completely incomplete. And the only way to be fully optimized is to be fully optimized in all aspects of your life. And each of us has our own unique blueprint of what is most important in our priorities and what's foundational for us. For instance, my partner, physical fitness is foundational for him. For me, relationships. If my relationships are rocky, I can't show up elsewhere. If his fitness is rocky, he can't show up elsewhere. And so it's important for each individual to take that audit of their entire ecosystem and then to understand what is foundational for you. What is that one piece that if this is not working, it all crumbles? And to prioritize that and to get really clear on what you need most, and then to create a plan essentially to see how you can go one by one based on those priorities.
I love that, and when you said foundational, it really made me think, you and I both studied holistic nutrition, and we're holistic beings, whether you want to believe in the philosophy or whatever it is, that you really nailed it there for me, because fitness is a big thing for me. And I know you said your partner's name Lando. Did I do my research correctly? So Lando and I have that in common. But there's an aspect that when you say foundation, because when my fitness is going well, it does affect the other areas. My relationships are better. My sleep is better. And my hormones are better. My skin is better. So how do you think someone goes about who who doesn't have this introspection, how do they find out what their foundational aspect would be? Is that a process that you would go through with someone?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the first places, some people call it the wheel of wellness or the wheel of health or a holistic audit or an assessment. And I think having somebody that can support you through that, or just having some templates that you can go through and look at and audit yourself. Okay, how am I doing in my relationships, in my work, in my health, in my spirituality, my mindset? And then like really asking those deep questions. Which one of these really affects the others? Like, can I go a week without working out and still show up in my work? Okay, yeah. Can I go a week with fighting with my partner and still show up? Okay, no. And so it's about having that introspection of pulling back from your life and taking a very honest, radically responsible look at it and seeing where those dots are connected and what pulls into what. And maybe in your mind it's a pie, or maybe it's a house, or maybe in your mind it's buckets that are overflowing into one. And I think if you can create that visual in your mind of how the different parts of your life create this ecosystem and what pours into what and what affects most, then you can have this really great assessment tool for yourself to come back to and to reflect upon.
Oh, wow. Yeah, radically responsible. I love that. I wrote that down there too, because that's a great way to put it. I always love when I have my guests on, I jump right into a question and then I go back. So you have a really great story. And I guess when I say great, I'm talking about where you are now. The story itself, if I'm correct, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I read that you said even at some points in your life, you were like spiraling into darkness. And I remember that line specifically. And I wanted to you to open up and talk about what that might be, but also that seems to be like such a common thread for people like yourself who become these amazing mentors for people to look up to help coach other people, that there's always this like really low point, and then they drag themselves or climb out of it and they become like this shining star. So I was hoping you could kind of share that story, and then I want to kind of dig into a little further and say, like, why do you think after we go through that and we help ourselves, we want to help other people too? Why do we do that as humans? Is that part of optimizing? Is now you have to share it? But I know that's kind of two questions there, but I'd love if you shared your dark story and then why you think once you get to that high point, because I'm the same way too. I love something. I found something that helps me so much and I have to tell everyone about it. Why do we do that? But yeah, if you wouldn't mind sharing your story.
Yeah, I'll actually answer the last question first. The way I see it, the very simplistic model is you find yourself in a hole, you claw yourself out, and then you just want to help others because you're like, oh, I found the way to get out of this hole. Like, I'm out of the hole. Life is so great out of the hole. And now I want to give back. And yet not everyone's like that. And not everybody goes into these holes. And so the meta perspective I have on this is that it's more of a spiritual perspective, that there are certain souls per se, that it is their soul's journey to go through hell, to go to the depths of the darkness, the depths of pain and suffering, to be able to empathetically connect with human suffering and to find those solutions, to be able to ascend through, transmute that, transform that, and then to help lead the planet. And I believe that was my soul's journey, and that's everything in my life brought me to this point. And I have that connection to, well, this is just my blueprint. This is why I'm on this planet.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Actually, sorry, I'll interrupt you quickly before you do share your story. That, I wrote that down when you were saying like the empathy too. I think maybe that's it. I hadn't considered that perspective, because I always, thought of that. People who are vegetarian are like, you got to go vegetarian. People who are vegan, oh, they tell everyone. I was like, why do they do that? And I think, that story of going to the dark place, if that's your soul's journey, it helps you understand what other people might be going through, because there is that sort of cliche of, people say, well, you don't understand me. And maybe it's that. It's like, I do. I was there, and here's what I did. And it's just that good part of you deep down that wants to help others, like you said. So yeah, that's wonderful. It's just the empathy aspect, possibly.
Yeah. And I feel like it's, for me, doing this work and giving back and helping others, it heals the child in me and the teenager specifically in me that didn't have someone, that I wish I could have had someone that could have supported me and held me and guided me in my darkest times, and I didn't. So I became that person for others, and through that, I heal this victim, disempowered, struggling side of me, which is still there, the inner child and the teen. And through helping others, I get to help and heal and harmonize within. So
that's good. Yeah, you became your own hero in a way. The person that you wanted to be there for you, you became. That's a really wonderful way to put it.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, amazing. So will you share your story with everyone? Because I know some of these things are personal, but when I was reading, like, it just intrigued me. I think because I felt the familiarity, because I've been in some really dark places. I like you. I had issues, whatever yours might be, that I couldn't solve. I sometimes was embarrassed or afraid to ask for help with, and when I did, I didn't get the answers. So that either told me, well, okay, this is normal, and I should just accept it, or I should stop asking because I'm not getting the answers. And then you go on this kind of deep dive into your own journey and become your own hero. But yeah, what was it for you? What were those dark times?
Thanks for asking. The way I'll share this story is that I was born into a family. My mom was 20 when she had me, and my dad was 21, and they were high school sweethearts. They weren't together. It was chaotic. I was born into what I call nervous system dysregulation state, or meaning a chaotic environment where both my parents were alcoholics. They had extremely low self-esteem. They were dysregulated, just unhappy, unhealthy. I was raised eating lots of junk food, and there's always fighting. And I grew up with my needs never getting met really by my parents, and always being a question asker and not understanding why some people's parents were so happy and healthy, and why my grandparents were this way, but my family was this way, and why people got sick. My mom got cancer when I was very young, and my stepdad was always on antidepressants and anti-anxieties, and people smoking weed and smoking cigarettes and drinking alcohol. And it didn't make sense to me. I wanted to be the most pure being. And so I remember getting an encyclopedia and starting to read about these different things. And I remember making a commitment. I'm going to understand why people are so mean and so unhappy. And I'm going to help mommy and daddy be healthy and happy. This was like very core foundational when I was a little girl. But growing up with a lot of abandonment and abuse, a lot of emotional and mental abuse from my family, daddy issues from my dad not being in my life. Well, what happened to me? Abusive relationships and abandoning myself, getting into drugs young, getting into alcohol, getting with the wrong crowd, with the wrong partners, abandoning myself through some of the things I did to my body, and slowly just feeling more alone and more isolated and sad and hurt. And my body started to break down. I was getting chronic infections every other month, and my parents just kept giving me the antibiotics every month. When I became a teenager, I started to lose my menstrual cycle, had a lot of hormonal acne. So my doctor put me on birth control right at 15, shut down your hormones. So I was chronically ill, eating the wrong foods, just all sorts of chemicals and toxic products, and being in stressful, abusive environments continuously. I nearly dropped out of high school. And I just realized I was in this reality of suffering, complete suffering. And I couldn't have healthy relationships. I kept getting either fired from jobs or having to quit. Everything was just so painful and stressful. And as a very sensitive girl that didn't know I was sensitive, I covered it up with anger. So I was constantly fighting, constantly in pain, constantly struggling. And it went to the point where my body started to shut down. As I was saying, I started to get chronically ill. I was having panic attacks. I was fainting. My menstrual cycle stopped for 7 years. I was going through this kind of like depression. I thought I was bipolar. My doctor said, "You're bipolar. You have borderline personality disorder," like everything in my life. And I just started to want to die. And I remember this subconscious, I want life to end. I want to die. I can't handle this. Why is it so painful? And then I almost died. I had near-death experience where my body created so much infection that my liver infection went systemic, and I developed a blood infection, which showed up as myeloma, or like a blood cancer. And then my best friend and my partner at the time were both doctors, and they both said, if you don't get chemo, I'm gonna, like your blood's gonna be on my hands. So my whole support system dropped me because they were very medical. And I had started to get into learning about more natural things, and the universe started to send me these things. So anyways, full life breakdown, near-death experience, waiting for the ambulance to come and pick me up. I had called my best friend saying, like, Steph, I think I'm dying. I can't tell my family because I don't want to worry them. Just take all my stuff and tell my family that I love them. And I remember laying in bed, my body like pulsing with electricity. I was so cold. I was shivering. My heart rate was so low. I think like 50 over something. And I met my higher self. I didn't believe in higher selves. I was not spiritual, didn't believe in God, didn't believe in angels. All that stuff was woo-woo nonsense. But here I was, and I met my higher self. I heard her say, like, Samantha, this is what you wanted. You wanted to die. You wanted it to end. Look at how you treat yourself. Look at what you're doing. Look at your life. Look at how you're abandoning yourself. Like, here, you can die if you want. Like, do you want to die or do you want to live? You can choose right now, because it is here, that moment, to end it all or to radically reclaim yourself and make everything in your life needs to change. Everything in your life needs to completely transform. What do you choose?
Wow.
And that's what changed everything from making choice.
Wow. That, wow, that's incredible. I mean, I wasn't even sure what to say. I was trying to write some notes. That's a really incredible story. And I can see why people resonate with you, because it's powerful. Like, I'm sitting here and we're not even together, but I feel it. Like, so you say, like, you met your higher self. How did you recognize that? Do you think that there had been points along the way? Let's say you're spiraling down, right? There was, the final rock bottom, but do you think there were signs along the way that you just weren't ready to recognize? Like, how did you recognize that, okay, this is my higher self? How did you hear that voice? And I know this is a little bit like metaphysical almost, but I think people would really be interested to know how you did, because maybe they can do it for themselves too. So were there signs along the way that you just didn't pick up on? Was it a voice? Did you hear what? Tell us about it, how you recognize that.
Yeah, I my whole life looking back, there were always signs pointing me, reconnecting me to nature, reconnecting me to these different spots. People would come in my life and share this like wisdom or tell me perspective or give me a book, or there were definitely signs along the way, especially at this point in my life. I had already been studying at the Institute of Holistic Nutrition, and I had just gone through the course, The Psychology of Disease. Mm-hmm. Which I had never thought I would study nutrition. I grew up eating Mars bars, pizza pockets, McDonald's. Like, even before a rugby game, I would down Mars bar, like in my 20s. Okay, so but along the way, there's always whenever I'd hit a rock bottom, something would come and rescue me. Something would come and so I see that I had that support the whole time, and in my dreams and these feelings that I would get. And my mom would always talk to me like about angels and astrology. And I was like, yeah, mom, whatever. But it was always there. And then this experience, what had happened, I didn't see something, but I had my eyes closed. And then it was as if I was laying in my bed thinking I was dying, waiting for the ambulance. And then it was as if my voice was coming from the ceiling. And it was just my own voice, like this, Samantha, like, and I was just, and then it was outside of me, but in my head as well, like outside, inside.
Wow.
If that explains it.
Yeah. Well, no, it's just really interesting because, you can't explain. Some of these things are unexplainable, and it's just the magic of the universe almost. But I'm always so intrigued by those stories and wonder how it manifests, because, I have a similar story, and, I've had tons of injuries and things happen to me physically really bad. And the last time, and I'll just speak on this quickly, this is really about you, not me. But I herniated 3 discs in my neck. And, I went to the hospital actually in an ambulance because, I had like a seizure or something, because it was just so bad. And when I got there, I thought, were you in a car accident? Like, what happened? And nothing happened. It just out of nowhere until this day they couldn't explain it. But I was in the hospital for 9 days, and those 9 days gave me a lot of reflection on, okay, why did this happen to me? And not in any sense victim, but what is this trying to teach me? What can I get from this? And I swear, Samantha, just like you said, my dad came to the hospital and visited me, and he gave me a book. I'm like, my dad's giving me a book. My dad's never given me a book in his life. And it was a wonderful book. It was called The Shack. And I think it's by William Young, if I'm not mistaken. It's been a while, but it really changed my life. And so I really kind of connect with their story too, that you don't necessarily know where these signs are coming from, or that they're even signs at the time, but it really helps to be present and to think, what else could this mean, or what else can I take from this? And that story really, really impactful. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for sharing that. What you made me think about was when you said, you started to ask those questions, like, not just why is this happening to me as a victim, but for me, what are the lessons here? And that differentiation is the difference that I see in people that spiral and stay in darkness, or that transform and heal and grow. And it's that, like, the victim of asking the question, why is this happening to me, to the question of how is this happening for me?
I love that.
That question. And even further, how is this happening through me, as me in some way? That whole is a totally differentiation of what result you're going to get. Yeah. And the body, and one of those books that came to me was You Can Heal Your Life by Louise Hay.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
The body speaks to you. You don't get into an injury for no reason. Your leg doesn't break for no reason. You don't, even breaking a nail, there is a metaphysical significance to what your body is speaking through you. And when we can learn that and ask always, how is this happening for my greatest joy and evolution? You will be on that path.
Wow. I got to use that as a clip out. That is one of the most, sometimes it's the simple things that just really makes sense. And that, why is this happening for me? I think I'm going to use that now. That's just wonderful. I wanted to look at possibly another side to this that's not so positive. It's really just a kind of a flat out question, because, going back to this happens to us, and we find this way to climb out of darkness, or how to optimize ourselves or improve ourselves in some way. And then we want to share it with everyone. Not everyone has a wonderful, open, good, giving heart. Do you think that in any way wanting to do this is selfish at all?
It can be. And that's, so there's different, okay. I've sat with this a lot, and there's a lot of the energy in which we do anything is the most important thing. So what I was first trying to do was I was trying to save my inner child by helping other people. I need to get this out. I need to save these other children, these other people that are struggling. And I was actually stripping them of their own journey by trying to save them, which was just me trying to save different versions of myself. Then the opposite of that is, well, I have this solution and I need to be famous with it. I need to be renowned across the lands, and everyone needs to know that I am the person who will deliver them to the promised land, right? And that's like the ego side of it.
Right, yeah.
And so now I feel, and I've been on both sides of that spectrum, which is why I can laugh. And, I don't want to save anyone. I don't want to be a tugboat carrying them through, and I don't need to be known for vanity metrics. I want to speak my truth because it feels good and empowering for me. And I only want to attract people that are ready and wanting further steps of empowerment. Mm-hmm. Because it's fun, not because I need to save them or because I need to be famous, but because it feels so good for me to collaborate with other people who are like, yes, I want to optimize. And so it's a very different energy, and it comes back to creation and fun and play.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah. Cause I often, ponder that myself, is in any way, are my actions being selfish or self-fulfilling? And, maybe in some aspects there, but I think you nail it there. It's really the energy in which you approach optimizing yourself and optimizing others. That has to obviously come from a good place, but your energies have to connect and intertwine, I guess, in some way.
There's also this, I think, it's funny, I'm here drinking from like a friend's mug, and And I think there was if I remember correctly, an episode where maybe Joey like tries to do something that's for others to not feel good because it's selfish to feel good when you help others. Fallacy in that is, well, one, selfish is not a bad thing. It means taking care of yourself. And so selfish, we need to really rewrite the meaning around that. But to do good for others and to feel good from that, that is a win-win scenario. And that is the only recipe, it's really the equation for how we thrive and flourish as humanity. Why is it better for you to feel good and me to feel bad, or you to feel good and me to feel neutral?
Mm-hmm.
Why not look for, oh, you feel good and I feel good. Great. So feeling good from helping others is not selfish. It's not a bad thing. It's actually the best thing. It's a zero-sum game where we both win.
Yeah, I really like that. And that actually reminds me of something that I often say to people. And, I can't remember exactly where I heard it, but there was always a saying, it's better to give than to receive. And then I heard this different perspective one time and said, like, no, it's not. It's not, because for everything to be equal, for everything to come out how it should, it has to be 50-50. For you to give, someone has to receive someone has to give. And they said, do you know what it's like to offer something to someone, or buy someone a gift, or make something for someone, whatever it might be, and you try to give it to them and they don't want to accept it? And what a terrible feeling that is. So saying you must accept with like as much graciousness as you try to give, and saying it will always be 50-50. It's not better to give. It's not better to receive. It's equal. And you kind of remind me of that. And I always like love that perspective too, that it's like, yeah, it's totally great to get things. It's totally great to give things. It's totally great to just connect with people. And like you said, both feel good.
Yes. And when I love mind trips. And so when we leave duality and like 3D reality, we step back, we actually see that giving and receiving is one. It's a circle. Yeah. And it is to receive, and to receive is to give. And we get to laugh at like, oh, I thought it was separate. It's not.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I love that. I want to dive into sort of like how people can optimize, like what you do for them. And I want to read something that you wrote. And I'll paraphrase it a little bit, but you said, what you do for people is like to have a life you love, to feel and look amazing, to heal your body, to have incredible relationships, to be thriving in your career, to know that your time on this earth mattered. I love that. It sounds like a poem. It sounds like I feel good just reading it. But that all sounds amazing. How does one define that for themselves? And I guess I'll use the last sentence. Like it says, to know that your time on this earth mattered. And I love reading that. How does someone say, like, that sounds great. I'm here. I want to be here. But how do I even define what that means to me? What my life matters? What does that mean to everyone's going to be different? How do you help people define that?
What's so cool about that, again, the meta level, is that matter in itself has no meaning. Matter, even this desk, it would not be anything unless I decided it was a desk. And so matter in itself is just matter, but we ascribe meaning to it. And so that's the most beautiful thing. Your life matters when you ascribe the meaning to that. So what does that get to mean for you? How would it feel for you, for your life mattering? For my grandma, it was being a mom and a grandma. That gave her life meaning. For my grandpa, it was providing for his wife. For me, it means helping liberate humanity. For others, it might mean tending to my garden and making sure that I grow food for the community. And so it really is individualized, and there is no objective standard of meaning. And anytime the world or society tries to market meaning and purpose to you, it's all a lie that you're being manipulated into. This is something that matches the unique blueprint of your soul. And this is what's so important. And we actually really need to invest time and energy and attention into, is to asking those questions and to coming inside and saying, who am I? Like, who am I really? And what matters to me? And what feels true for me? And how do I want to show up in my life? How do I want to think? How do I want to feel? How do I want to connect? What do I want to create? And what is meaningful to me? And that is where the gold is. Yeah. And through that inquiry, to start to evaluate, well, where in my life am I not matching those answers? And how can I start to shift and align to live in integrity with who you are, how you want to feel, and the life that you want to lead, and the creation that you want to create.
Yeah. And so do you suggest that people go through this process with someone like yourself? Is this something people can do on their own? And maybe this is a two-part question almost, but something I wrote down that you were saying there is like, who am I really? Who am I really? And I want to give people some sort of tangible, yes, I can take this, I can do it. And when you say, who am I really? I read this quote. It was just this past this weekend. I can't remember who it was again, but that to become sober, and you talked about this in your story, whether it's drugs or alcohol or both. To become sober is to really understand who you are and to be able to sit with yourself without that. Is that a good first step for people to answer that question? Who am I really? Is there a process they can do? Should they cut all the alcohol, all the drugs, everything? Should they write it down? How do they start that?
That's such a good question. And I believe that people can definitely do it on their own, as long as they're introduced to some of these topics. You can definitely do it with me. Sure. Yeah.
I think people would love to do it with you. I don't think that's a question.
Actually, this is really fun. At the time that we're recording right now, what is it? It's April. With the time recording, when this comes out, it's going to be a little later. But I just created a company in South Africa with two incredible men, and we're creating essentially a step-by-step guide on how to help people transition from that old paradigm to the new paradigm, and all the tools and the techniques. So stay tuned for that, everybody. But until then, I would say asking yourself some really important questions like, what really bothers me? What upsets me about the world? Where am I in my pain? What doesn't feel good for me? And it's often easier to ask the negative questions first, like what doesn't feel good? What bothers me? What irks me? What pisses me off? What, like, where am I hurting in my life? What doesn't feel good? What sucks? And when you get clear on what we call the contrast, then we start to say like, well, what would I like my life to feel like? What would joy feel like to me? Like, if I could do anything, what would I do? If money was an option, how would my life be different? If I could just wave a magic wand and my relationships would be amazing, like, what would that actually look like? Mm-hmm. And starting to ask, like, well, what do I care about? If I was the president, I love this question. If you were the president of the world and you could do anything with the world, what would change? And so I start asking people these questions, and that can be a really good place to start. And I feel like for some people, or for most people that are, I call the world like kind of like the Matrix. And most people were kind of like raised in the Matrix. We're in the Matrix, or the old paradigm. And I think it's important to realize and recognize that who you are and how you think and how you feel and how you interact, it has been conditioned, like based on the society that you grew up in. And so even being able to take a step back and just to look at, like, how was I raised? How were my parents? What was my community? What was my church like? What are all of the different factors that made up how I think and feel? And is this really true to me? And these are all very cerebral and very mental. So a better way to identify if this is true to me is, how does it feel? Does it feel good? It's so simple. Does this feel bad or does this feel good? If it feels bad, it's a lie. If it feels good, it's the truth. So asking people to come into their body and be like, what feels true for me? What feels good for me? And how could I start to move towards what would feel good for me?
Yeah, I love that. So it is a subjective measurement, obviously. And you mentioned the matrix there. And something that I really, really was excited to ask you, because you said, we're at the cutting edge of consciousness, relinquished from the confines of the matrix. Like, not only are you a really great writer, but it's like thought provoking. And when you said that, relinquished from the confines of the matrix, it makes me feel, and I think a lot of people might have this misconception. Hopefully you can clear up, like, the matrix is some kind of physical confines, but I feel like the matrix is really more of a psychological confine than a physical one. So what role does consciousness play in escaping the matrix, or again in human optimization? What role does consciousness play in that?
Yeah. Oh, this is so good. We could go on for hours. I could talk about it for hours. So what I'll say in simplicity is it is physical in a way, because we are in these physical bodies in reality. And if you look at it like the schools you grow up in, and your government and your taxes and like passports and the rules of the world, and it's all kind of corporations that just run the world. You're kind of an employee to the country, the corporation of your country, and kind of a slave to your passport and all of that. So we can go into that. But really what you said is correct, is that it is mind. And the way that we were programmed, the way that we were socialized and taught to understand ourselves in reality, right now in our generation, it was really through the industrial revolution and now moving into the digital revolution. And so in the industrialized revolution, we were really taught to become employees. We were taught one path. You sit at a desk. If you're smart, you go to university, you get a good degree, you get a solid job, so you have your security net, you meet your partner, you have kids, you get a dog, you have a house, you pay your mortgage, you retire, and that's when you enjoy your life, right? That's like very what is presented to us. And the way that language is used, and the way that religion has been used, and social media has been used, and all media, it's like most of us live in these boxes of our own reality. And what we are seeing now with the internet, and with what I feel is consciousness really greatly expanding and rapid evolution, with the way that the world looks like a disaster with everything, the pandemic and this and the wars and this, and everything is falling away. What we're seeing is a rapid awakening where people are like popcorn, like, oh, I don't know that this is exactly what's real. I don't know that this is true. Like, they're starting to question, is this really what all that there could be? There must be more. There must be more. There must be more. And that's what we're seeing, is people asking like, there must be more. They're waking up from essentially that box, that this is all that there is. And they're seeing that they're infinite. And we're even humans are recognizing, oh, wow, like humans have way more potential and way more power and way more capacities, like psychic capacities and intuitive capacities and all sorts of talents and capacities, that even self-healing, that we weren't taught, and we weren't taught that for a reason. And I believe that the old paradigm was really to keep humans suppressed and enslaved, kind of like sheep, that they can take our energy and life force until we're useless. And we're awakening, and the earth is shaking us to awaken to, there's a whole other reality available.
Yeah, I completely agree. And, I've been noticing the same thing as I talk to people like yourself, Samantha. It is amazing. It's really wonderful to see that people are awakening. And I guess when we think of that, and when we think of the matrix, is being disconnected from the matrix, is that a requisite for human optimization? Or can someone live in the matrix, do a 9-to-5 job, be a quote unquote slave, but still have mental freedom? Are they able to optimize, or must you completely escape the matrix to have that total optimization?
Yeah, I think you can live anywhere and be optimized, as long as it feels true for you. Some people, I talk about my grandpa a lot. My grandpa, his role, he wanted to provide for his family. He liked numbers, so he was an accountant. He had a stable job, and that was good for him. He was free in that. That was what felt true. So he had systems that supported what his mission were. So I think that if you're in a 9-to-5 and but you like it, you're getting paid well, it's meeting your needs, you feel like you're being valued, you're being seen, you have that security, you have control over your autonomy, the work that you're creating feels meaningful to you, then absolutely. So that's taking care of the purpose and like the spiritual aspect. Then you can definitely take care of your body. You can optimize the way you connect in your relationships. You can take your mindset and your energy, your attitude, all aspects of your life to that next level. So absolutely. The only way, a different way I'll rephrase this, is you cannot be free where you feel imprisoned. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. That makes a lot of sense. You have all these great sayings. It's really wonderful. So let's say someone does work 9-to-5. And like you said, there's many people, like my parents, for example, they're the happiest people in the world. And they did that. And now they're retired. And like, that was totally fine for them. And I guess it was because it was more acceptable, or that's just what everyone was doing. What sign or signs can someone look for to say, okay, wait a second, am I actually happy, or am I just doing all of this on autopilot? Is there a sign that someone listening to this can say, hey, okay, I wasn't picking up on this because I'm just in the autopilot sense that, these people drive to work and they don't even know what turns they took. They're just there, right? You're totally on autopilot. What sign can they look for, like subconsciously or consciously, that says, okay, it's time to reassess where I'm at. Am I actually happy? Are there signs?
Yeah, absolutely. And first I want to just point to something. I want to emphasize something you just said. In our parents' time and our grandparents' time, work in the 9 to 5 was very different. Companies were different. There was way less population. People were valued. They were doing a multiplicity of things. Right now, most jobs have been refined down to one little action. So you're just repeatedly pressing a button, or just doing one part of an email marketing campaign over and over and over. And we've been reduced, that reductionistic to, you're just doing one little micro focused thing, this specialized thing. But I feel like that is where a huge part of the issue is. And because companies have changed, you're not so valued, you're very replaceable, you're just, so it's very different to, even 20 years ago. But now companies are changing and you can feel valued and feel expressed and creative. So it just really depends. But the way, again, to feel it and to know is through the feeling of it. And the quickest and easiest way is to take assessment of how your mental health is and how your physical health is and how your relationships are. Anxiety, depression, stress, neck pain, back pain, digestive issues, nail biting, twitching, alcoholism, using drugs, using pornography, using gambling, any numbness, distraction, right? Consistent fighting with your partner or having poor relationships. Those are all indicators that you are not thriving. Mm-hmm. And you first feel it in your mind and in your body.
Yeah. Yeah, that's amazing. And some of those things that you were listing off, I was like, oh gosh, I used to do that. Oh, I did that, And it's funny that although we're all so different, we all do kind of fall into these same habits. And my wife, she's big on the codependency. She reads a lot about that kind of stuff. And it's funny that she says that, she's like, we're all so different. And we think inside our head, oh, I think this and I shouldn't say that and this. And a lot of other people are thinking and doing the exact same thing. And it's really interesting. And I kind of guess I want to circle back to we're down to a simple single task at these jobs, right? That you kind of said. Does that, I guess, lead to or trigger some of these feelings where people are stressed like this now, that they're so used to only doing one little thing, where like our parents or grandparents, like you spoke of, do this and do that, and they feel valued. Now that we've refined things down to your job is to press this button, is that why, or is that one of the problems that, or for, I guess, why people feel more stressed, why their adrenals are blown out? Are we doing that to people?
Totally. I think there's so many different factors. That's one. And I think Karl Marx talked about this, but being a cog in a wheel, where your life force energy, that you're only on the planet for a certain amount of time, and your energy, which is your life force and your time, is going to something that's so minute that the creativity isn't there, and you don't even get to benefit from the fruits of your own labor. And it's just, that you're replaceable, and you're sitting, oftentimes, most people are sitting now with fluorescent lights and schedules and timetables and a pay that can just barely get them by. And, even in neuroplasticity, when you're only doing one thing over and over and over again, your brain and your neurons start to create these pathways, and they get hardwired. So diversity and variety is the flavor of life. And we actually need that. Our brains need to be challenged and tested and pulled and pushed in a diverse and various ways, or else they get hardened and they atrophy. And so when you're atrophied and you're sitting in this position and you feel not creative, you're not feeling fulfilled, there's these harsh environments, of course you're going to be triggered, and and then it's like you have less resiliency to show up in other areas of your life, because this core piece of you, which I believe we're on this planet to fulfill a specific purpose to our soul. When we're not doing that, I feel like the soul just suffers. And we know that, whether it's conscious or unconscious.
Yeah. Yeah. That's amazing, because it's something that I've noticed, these people, I keep saying these people, and now that's just a terrible thing that you can't even say anymore. A lot of people are so triggered by anything. We've lost this like companionship and this personality and the charisma between people. And I even notice it, I go to the grocery store, and I'm one of those people that say, hey, how are you? I talk to everybody, ask the cashier or whoever it is, and they're like, huh, what? They're not even awake. Is there one thing someone can do? And I know you've mentioned a lot of real good nuggets here. Is there one thing that someone can do to make a quick change, to get them over the hump, to get them on this path? What's the one thing that you would tell them? That's tough.
Yeah. Which hump?
Well, I think when the people are so hardwired, these tasks have become hardwired, their personality has become hardwired. I feel like their soul has been diminished. And I'm not speaking for people. I'm just using observation. Like I said, I go to the grocery store and I say, hey, how are you today? And they're like, did you want bags? And I say, no, I said, how are you? They're not even responsive. They're so withdrawn. I think that's more the hump I'm talking about. How does someone who's in that, who potentially possibly feels hopeless, what's one thing they can do and just spark something?
Yeah. I keep answering your question by touching upon what you just.
It's really hard.
we interpret and interface with life through our nervous system. Okay, that's like the basis of everything. That's our brain's perception and our nervous systems and our hormone. Like, so the nervous system state really will dictate, and your brain chemistry will really dictate how you interface with the world. And what we see right now is that, I will say, the forces that be and their agenda, it's worked, because when your sense of safety and security has been shaken and you've been locked down and masked up and hidden away and been terrified, literally fear programming, everything inside is, I'm not safe, the world is not safe, it is not okay. And so you'll go into adrenal fatigue, and then burnout, and then full like dorsal vagal shutdown. And that's where it's a zombie apocalypse. Okay. And that's what I call it. And it was synthesized, it was orchestrated to be that way. And so for anyone that is hearing this and saying like, oh my God, I'm fully shut down, I feel that way, I think one of the best things to do, again, is to create a place in the body that feels safe and that feels pleasurable. And that can be the first thing to start to program the body that it's safe. We need this, our foundation, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the chakra system, any need, everything comes down to humans need to feel safe and secure more than anything else. And so if you can start to create that inside of yourself by rubbing a cat or sitting on the grass or focusing on a part of your body that feels nice, and breathing and connecting to the senses, looking at the ocean, feeling the breeze, holding a warm mug, anything that can help your body feel good and focus on where it's comfortable and safe, that's where you can start to create safety in your own system and start to wire your brain and produce more of your healthy, happy hormones. I'd say that would be the first thing. And maybe even before that, choosing, the power of choice, choosing and saying to myself, I deserve to feel good and alive. I deserve, and I am choosing it. I know it's hard right now, and like the whole world feels against me, and it's very, very challenging. And yet I'm going to choose. I'm going to choose myself. I choose me. Yeah. That power of choosing, that will orient everything, and everything else will stem out of that self-reclamation.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Yeah. And you mentioned there, the nervous system. And then it was kind of the last question I had for you. You sort of touch, there's all these different things you can do. And then going back to how we originally started this podcast, like find your foundational aspect or whatever it is for you, or touch a cat or do all these things. I think it's really wonderful. One thing you didn't mention there, but I really wanted to make sure I include this, because I myself would love to learn about this. I know very little, but I think this might be something that's I don't want to downplay it and say it's easy, but it might be a good way for people to to start this journey to get out of these places, or to begin optimization. And you talk about it in your practice, essential oils.
Yes.
So is that something that someone can, and I really wasn't hinting to try to get you to say, I had this written down, I'm like, please ask her about essential oils. Is that somewhere people can start? Because even me, I'm a graduate of IHN, and we learned about it a little bit in there, and they're everywhere. And when you hear essential oils, you think, oh, that's a good thing. You automatically do associate some positivity with it, but how the heck do I use it? I have no idea. I don't know. There's a million different kinds, but could you, and I know this is a big topic, could you touch on that? Is that something that someone who has no understanding can pick up and can start to give some self-love and start to optimize themselves in that sense?
Absolutely. And I'm so happy you brought this up. Essential oils are my secret weapon.
Yeah.
And, so people often laugh like, oh, essential oils is just this fragrance. But what it really is it's nature's original medicine. They've been used and utilized for thousands of years, thousands. Just think about in the Bible, whether you're religious or not, baby Jesus, the most mighty of beings on the planet. What was he gifted by the kings that crossed the land? Gold, frankincense, and myrrh. Those are 2 essential oils. And gold is really metaphysical for alchemy. So essential oils, whether you know about them or not, or understand the chemistry or not, they work on you because they are natural chemicals. They're volatile compounds, which means their molecules are very, very small. When you breathe them in, or you put them on your skin, or you take them internally, they're going right into your brain. They're going right into your cells. They're going right through the skin and being absorbed. And they work very synergistically with your body. And so breathing in something like lemon or wild orange or any lime or any citrus oil will naturally, within moments, invigorate you, because they go right into your limbic system in your brain, and they start to tell they signal to your body, ooh, happy, joy, where things like lavender or vetiver or chamomile will signal to your brain, ooh, I'm safe, calm, relaxation. And the brain, when they get this message, this signal, this medicine, sends the signal through your nervous system to every single cell in your body. So working with essential oils is one of the fastest, quickest, most effective and affordable and safe ways to affect your neurochemistry, your biology, your mood, and your nervous system, which is why I actually use it with every single one of my clients, everyone in my family, everyone who uses essential oils, because it's nature's gift to us. It's a natural medicine.
Yeah. Oh, I'm really glad I asked about that then. So since there are so many and their effects are obviously profound, is there a way to start? Do we need to call Samantha Lotus if we want to use these, or can we go to a store, pick up a couple and experiment? What's the warning on the label here?
The unfortunate situation is that 95% of the essential oils on the market are adulterated, meaning that they are synthetic or partly synthetic, and that they can actually do more damage than good, which really, really sucks. This is one of the most adulterated markets. So I actually do not recommend going to the store and picking up some essential oils and breathing them in, because if they're synthetic, you are breathing them in. If you're just putting it on your body, you're actually putting it in your body. If you're just breathing it in, it is going into your body. And so I actually only work with doTERRA, the company doTERRA. They're the gold standard. They're certified pure therapeutic grade, and they're made for internal use. Okay. They're third-party stringent testing, and the purity of it and the batching of it, and how you can, there's so much I can go into this, but it's important that you're using medicinal grade, therapeutic grade, to actually get the positive benefits that you want to get, and not to put more burden on your system. Mm-hmm. So for anyone that would like to get essential oils, or maybe even switch your essential oils, and this is so fun too, when people get like store-bought and then they get doTERRA and they smell them or feel them, there's a huge difference. You can actually go to samanthalotus.com/essential oils. And you can learn all about the different oils. You can take my mini class. It's all free. If you want to get oils, you can definitely do that. I show you how you can get them at wholesale price and all points, and be a part of our organization where we support you. And if you need personalized support, then definitely connect with me on Instagram or on any platform. And I'm super happy to help. I'm always teaching classes. And this is something that I'm really passionate about, to help people have a medicine cabinet at home for any ailment that comes up, where they can be empowered to take care of themselves and their families.
Yeah, I love that. We'll definitely, I'll put a link to this stuff in the description so people can easily find you. If you don't mind, can I give you one more question before we go? Do you have a minute? Just because this is so interesting now, and I left this till the end, but essential oils, like I said, I really don't know a lot. I want to optimize my health. I want to optimize my consciousness, my happiness, all of these things. What you just said is, people ingest them, people breathe them in, people put it on their skin. Could you tell us a little bit, just those three, either ingesting, smelling or inhaling, or putting on your skin, what the differences would be, how they would affect you differently? If I'm looking to, again, optimize myself or my consciousness, would I do one over the other? Is there benefits to one?
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll start with topical. Topical is really great for pain, for inflammation, for bruises, for cuts, scrapes, for skin cancer. That's a really good one, where frankincense oil, for instance. It's also great for just like self-care, like body massage, lymphatic drainage, especially around the armpits or the breasts, for digestion, putting on the tummy. If you're using it with babies, you'd want to dilute it. Obviously, it's because they're very strong. So you dilute them in, say, a coconut oil or olive oil, apricot oil, and you could rub them along the spine of your baby on the bottom of the feet. It absorbs, like say they have colic or they have an ear infection. You can use them topically because it's too potent to do internally, even for dogs and horses, using lavender or tea tree. So any acne, scars, you can use them topically. So those are like the aesthetics and more surface level.
Mm-hmm.
Then aromatically is really great for mood, okay? Because look how close your nose is to your brain, right? Small pathway. So, and your brain controls everything in your nervous system. So breathing them in, I use them for grounding, for uplifting. I don't drink coffee, but I take peppermint oil, which is very invigorating, rosemary and wild orange, and I rub that in my hands and I breathe that in. And literally, it's like a shot of espresso. You're like, oh, okay, let's do it. So I use them for invigorating. That's where you would use aromatically, is to affect your mood. Say you're feeling depressed or sad or anxious or a little bit manic. Maybe you're too energized and you need to ground. This is a really great way to affect your vibratory field too. If you're working with energetics, the essential oils are all vibratory. Rose oil is the highest vibration oil in the entire planet. Melissa, the oil of truth, copaiba of unveiling. So you can use them metaphysically, and that's where I like to breathe them in. And then internally, and there's a huge debate around, like, you cannot take essential oils internally, da, da, da. That is true for synthetic essential oils. Just like you can't eat a plastic orange, you should not be taking synthetic essential oils. With doTERRA, you have to think you can absolutely, it's from a plant. It's 100% from the plant. If you can eat the plant, you can eat the flower, you can eat the fruit, why could you not take its medicine? So using it internally, it would be if you are looking at anything autoimmune condition, digestion, pain, inflammation, cancer, detoxification, hormone regulation, like anything. You can use essential oils for anything. And the thing is every medication that's created was based on something essential oil based that they tried to mimic synthetically so they could patent. Mm-hmm. So you can use essential oils for literally everything. For impotence, for hair loss, for everything you can use these oils for.
Yeah, you weren't talking to me, were you there specifically?
Men that want to, show up harder and faster for their partners. And there you go. You can have a lot of fun with them. You could take oils into the romantic department, definitely.
No, that's wonderful. Like I said, we did touch on it, like at IHN when I went there, and I honestly, I can't even remember what class it was, but it was always one of those things. Again, you have this positive association with it, but no idea how to use it. And obviously, we probably do want to talk to someone like yourself if we really want to dive deep into it. But I mean, you really open that up, and the 95% synthetic is quite alarming. And your analogy there with the plastic orange is exactly that. When we synthesize things, when you create them in a lab and we take the nature out of it, we kind of take the magic out of it, don't we?
Exactly. And what's so scary is that even when they say organic or 100% pure, that's actually marketing. And for an oil to have an organic symbol on it, it only needs to have 5% organic material.
Is that
How
true?
crazy is it's terrible. So the way you can tell, this is a little trick. Turn around the bottle and see if it says for aromatic and topical use only, it is synthetic. 95% of oils will say that. doTERRA's, you can take internal, and there are supplement labels on them. And it says for internal use, or in Canada, it says like for food flavoring, because the Canadian standards are kind of ridiculous around marketing. But that's the main difference.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's quality and purity, and then also the intention. Where are the oils from? Are they grown in the backyard, like near the highway in Utah, or does the lavender come from Italy? Does rose come from Bulgaria? Is it frankincense from Oman, where it's meant to be from, where it's a natural climate? That actually makes a huge difference as well.
Yeah, it's amazing that you mention these things, and it's really nice to have like an expert like yourself saying them, because it goes back to the old saying. It's like, when mom's cooking and she's cooking with love, and it's like you really do taste the difference. And if love went into the person manufacturing these essential oils, did it with the right things, with the right intentions, and in the right area, that it really makes a difference. Before we go and I end this, I mean, I almost don't want to let you go, but I really want to, before this ends, even have you back on again. And maybe after you launch that business with your two partners that you talked about, maybe we have you back on and promote that a little bit. But, the last thing you mentioned there, and I suppose everything we do is like with intention, and this is kind of a big ask, but before we let you go, could you provide us with some intention, even if you take a minute and ground yourself first? Could you leave us with just something really magical, something Samantha Lotus like?
Yes, absolutely. The most important thing I could really say is that you deserve to be well. You deserve to feel good. You deserve to live a life of joy and bliss and happiness and freedom and fulfillment. You deserve that. And there's no one coming to save you. You get to be that person that chooses that for yourself and that creates that. And you absolutely can. And all of the tools and all of the resources and all of the support is waiting for you. And it's really going to come down to you choosing yourself with radical, irreverent commitment to the life that you want to live. And it is so worth it. And I hope that if I could say anything or instill anything, is that the self-love and the self-choosing that goes into that process of who you are becoming is the most meaningful and beautiful and wonderful gift that you can give yourself. And I truly hope that you choose to do that.
Thank you so much. That's really amazing. You have a way about the way you speak and hold yourself that I think it makes it more meaningful when you say it than to see this on a web page or to read it. So I can't thank you enough. I know everybody's gonna love this. We're already gonna have you back on. I've already decided, as long as I can steal some of your time. I know we're in different time zones too, but just from the bottom of my heart and from everyone watching or listening, thank you so much, Samantha.
Thank you so much.